1, 2, 3, 4. So everybody go da 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 da.
Hi, I'm CJ Mitchell, and today we're going to explore one of Pittsburgh's most amazing areas. With over 48,000 residents packed into 18 neighborhoods, it's one of the most commercial sides of town. So keep it locked right here. This is my KEYS AmeriCorps, North Side style. Well, I want to find out all about the needs and assets of the North Side community, but I'm not quite sure how to do it. So I'm going to ask myself the same question you ask yourself every day. What would Aaron Gray do? Oh, he would start with his site supervisor. Good thing I'm already here. Let's go to the Science Center. All right, so I've talked to my site supervisor. Now it's time to get into the interviews. You ready? Let's go. Might need to change clothes really quick.
Come see the Steelers and the Pirates. What a town. Have a ball, hail the Panthers, and cheer the Penguins. Because Pittsburgh has...
Amazing how it's completely different weather in the same day, isn't it? Welcome to Pittsburgh. Alright, first off, we're going to start out going to Community College of Allegheny County and talking to the dean. This should be interesting. Alright, well, I just finished an interview here at the coffee shop with the pastor of City View, and now I'm going to head to talk to a teacher who used to work on the North Side. Really good coffee. Just finished up here at Allegheny 6 through 8 Middle School, and now we're going to head right across the street to the Children's Museum of Pittsburgh. Woo!
Hey, do you believe it when I say
that it all comes back to you?
Well, okay.
Okay, hey.
Do you believe it when I
has
say?
a lot of contributions that they can give to a school with a rich cultural environment, with the Children's Museum, the National Aviary, the Science Center, the sports work. We have the two major sports arenas here with the Steelers and the Pirates. We have the mattress factory. So there are, just to name a few, so there are a wealth of community resources that are at our back.
I think the North Side has a lot of assets, and because I both live and work here, I get to experience them a lot. I think our parks and our green spaces are a critical part of just enjoying living on the North Side. You can walk through them, and they're super accessible. We have Riverview Park, we have Allegheny Commons, both of which are quite large and really offer kind of a respite from living in an urban environment. So I really love those spaces. I think those are huge assets. Being so close to downtown and the rivers is an asset because we have a lot of people who live on the North Side because they can walk or bike downtown or take a very short bus ride. And there's a lot of areas of the city that if you work downtown, you know the commute is not very pleasurable. So I know a lot of people who do that, and I think that that's a great part of living on the North Side. We also have a lot of cultural attractions that people don't always consider. We have the Children's Museum, the Aviary, the Warhol Museum, the Mattress Factory. We have all the sports facilities, and we have Artist Image Resource, which is a printing studio for artists. We have the Photo Antiquities Museum. We have, I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole host of them, the Science Center. So, you know, those are all very close together, and people don't always realize that. They don't always think about the fact that we have all those on the North Side. And I think the trails are a great asset. We have a lot of people who come over here to bike because they're so beautiful. They run along the river, and I'm actually part of a bike ped committee, and we're continually trying to expand those trails and make them more accessible with more signage so more people know about them. And then actually I'm going to say the Charm Bracelet Project, which is a project of the Children's Museum, and because of our relationship with the neighborhood and our care of being involved in the community, we created a project where we fund micro grants specific to the North Side. So anyone, you know, from all over the world could come and do one of these grants, but it has to occur on the North Side. And that's a really unusual program for a neighborhood to have, that a cultural institution says we're going to invest specifically, you know, in our surrounding
I think
neighborhoods.
the assets would be the fact that it's very close to the city of Pittsburgh. It's a very diverse area, and you have your easy access to everything. The children, anything that really, lots of things that deal with children, the Children's Museum, the Science Center, downtown, the Strip District. You're closer to, what is that? The Good Chip Lollipop, and you know, that type of thing. So it's diverse, definitely, and it is accessible. And there are lots of historical landmarks and history on the North Side.
Well, I think, first of all, there are cultural organizations on the North Side. There's the Mattress Factory, there's the theater in what was the old Carnegie Library building. There is the new Carnegie Library branch up on Federal Street. Beautiful parks, and the fact that it's, I think, a very interesting mix in terms of a neighborhood. Down at the shore, you've got you know, those huge structures and that new development that goes with them. But as you head back north, you go through many business districts, some of them very distinct. Deutschtown, so much different than the Allegheny West area. And then going back into that, you go back into neighborhoods, very unique neighborhoods. You know, you've got the War Streets, you have the other community that goes up Beaver. Sorry, the name just escaped me. And then you have, I guess what you would call the central North Side, which is near, closer to the hospital and where the housing stock is older. So you know, it's really, it's a very big area, and in its bigness, there's a lot of variety, and I think that's an asset. Without crossing a bridge, you can see a lot of different types of neighborhoods, parks, stadiums. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff without ever leaving the North Side and the North Shore.
I think that probably the biggest asset of the North Side community is its diversity. We have all kinds of people here, people from all sorts of walks of life, young urban professionals, older folks who were born and raised here, folks from who cross all of the various ethnic and racial groups. So I feel like that difference is part of our strength. I feel like we have a solid core of grassroots folks who are really about community development and community building, and so I think that's a strength that we have. You find folks who aren't necessarily willing just to sit and let things stay the way they are. I think too, our sort of odd mix of 15 very different and distinct neighborhoods is a strength, because there's not just a cookie cutter neighborhood on the North Side. You're going to live here, you can find the spot that really fits you best. Yeah, I think those are the biggest things.
Hey, do you believe it when I say
That it all comes back to you.
well, okay?
Okay, hey.
Do you believe it when I say
Needs of the North Side probably deal a lot with resources available to the lower income areas. Although the North Side is very diverse, there are clear-cut kind of separations between neighborhoods, which I don't know that we can't say happens in Pittsburgh, but it's definitely that way on the North Side. Some of the schools, Pittsburgh Public and things of that nature, they are in some of the rougher areas of the North Side, so a need would just be, I could say maybe beautifying, career readiness programming for those lower income areas. So diversity in the sense of socioeconomic status. So diversity with perhaps placement of different houses, different incomes. And then I think a majority or very important aspect would be to provide, maintain, and a consistent job readiness type program or trade school or colleges or just something, a resource for the families that need it on the north side, because it's a beautiful area.
I think some of the needs of at least the central north side community, because the north side is comprised of about 17 different neighborhoods, so obviously each neighborhood could identify more specifically what they needed. But because I live and work both pretty much in the central north side, I'm more familiar with those needs. And I think this is a citywide issue, but I think better public transit, because the north side has a lot of hills, even people who bike and are comfortable biking sometimes can't get from one place to another. It forces you to own a car because you just can't get some places on public transit in a time-efficient manner. And I think, of all the cities around the U.S., I think we have a decent public transit system, but I think that we could do a lot more by way of that. I said before that the trails are an asset, but I also think that a need is just better bike lanes. I'm an avid bicyclist. That's how I get most places, and it's just not always safe to bike on certain roads. The roads are very narrow. You have 2 lanes, and you could, there's certain streets that you could actually remove one of those lanes to make bicycling a lot safer. And that's a more cost-effective option of transportation for a lot of people who might not be able to afford owning a car but need to get a lot of places. And biking aside, walking. We just have a lot of dangerous intersections on the north side, and we want to encourage families and, people of all ages. So we want elderly to feel comfortable walking, and we want kids to feel comfortable walking to school, through the park. But a lot of the intersections around this area are quite dangerous. They're just fast-moving traffic, and they're large intersections. So I think that designing a more pedestrian-friendly community would be really important. I think the north side could use more amenities. We could use more restaurants. We could use a few more small grocery stores. I think that would be a great asset that we're lacking right now. And I think probably we could use more development on our main streets. We have some really beautiful main streets with gorgeous old buildings, and we just need, and I'm not sure what those specific needs are, whether it's more support for small businesses moving into those, whether it's overall Main Street funding for the development of those areas. I'm not sure specifically what those are, but I know that we have these main streets with tons of vacancies, and it just seems like that would create a much more thriving community. And finally, we have gorgeous old buildings that are being torn down every day because Pittsburgh just needs more people to, move here and commit here and spend their time here and invest in their community. And I really think that whenever we tear down an old house and build a new house, we're losing a part of our history, and we're tearing down buildings from the 1800s that newer cities in the U.S. would love to have. They would love to have a history that they could showcase, and because of our population, we tear these buildings down, and it's really sad to watch, and it happens every day in our neighborhood. Every single day buildings are torn down. So I think that just people who value old buildings and are willing to invest the time and effort and money and energy to keep them going and retrofit them so that they are livable and usable. The museum's a great example of that. And there's a lot of other institutions, the Mattress Factory, these places that have taken old buildings on with all of their problems and their maintenance issues, but we believe in preserving the history of this place because it's valuable to us. And so I think just more people who kind of have that vision and are willing to do that.
The biggest need that we have is in the area of education. Pittsburgh as a whole is struggling with respect to public education, and specifically on the north side, some of the changes that are being proposed and seem to be on their way are making it very difficult for folks who live here to think that they have good school options for their kids. And so I feel like that's perhaps our most significant need. And then secondly, I think that we have an interesting population of folks who are disconnected, kids who are disconnected. And just read an interesting research report about Pennsylvania being tied with West Virginia for the largest percentage of kids who are disconnected, not in education and not at work, between ages of 15 and 19. And I work with a lot of those folks, and we're missing. I guess we're missing. There's a hole in our safety net here, or education net, and so once kids drop out, they're completely lost. And ultimately what they end up becoming are uneducated adults. And we have a significant population of folks. In my work, I work with a significant number of adults who have not finished high school, who are trying to raise kids in a public education system that's struggling. So the feedback loop, if you will, the negative feedback loop that gets created in that situation is really detrimental. So, all right.
One of the pluses of being a magnet school is that we have children from throughout the Pittsburgh area. One of the minuses, I would say, is that sometimes parents don't have transportation to be, parent involvement on site. So sometimes it's hard for them to get over to this site during the day based on where they're located in the city. So if I would think of any thing that I would like to improve, is that we would have a magical bus that would bring parents, and they have an opportunity to see their children actively learn.
Community needs, I think, is a little tricky because it's related to number one, because the area is so big and there are so many distinct neighborhoods. The needs of those individual neighborhoods don't always overlap. There are pockets of where there are gentrified neighborhoods, where there are higher socioeconomic residents, and their needs are certainly different from perhaps longer term north side residents that have a lower socioeconomic status. I would like to think that regardless of your socioeconomic status, that you would still appreciate the assets commonly, the parks, the whatever, come together whether you're rich or poor, black, white, whatever. I guess I see the needs more heavily weighted towards those people on the north side of lower socioeconomic status. They need ready access to education, after-school programs for young children, especially in homes where there may not be a mentoring piece available. Mentoring would be great for that. When students from the north side come to the campus, oftentimes it's their first really positive experience with education. If that could be changed, that would be great. It would be great if they could come to us and say, look, I knew in 9th grade what I wanted to be and what I enjoyed, and so I've taken X, Y, Z courses. Now can you pick me up from there, Dean Betters, and take me further? That's what I'm hoping for in the future. Instead, what we're getting now from many of the residents that come to us is a complete dearth of basic skills. They need to start at the lowest reading skill, of course, the lowest math, the lowest English. And so I know that stronger educational needs in the K through 12 area are needed for residents.
Hey, do you believe it when I say
That it all comes back to you.
well, okay?
Okay, hey.
Do you believe it?
About a service project is the last thing we need, honestly, is a service project that sort of swoops in provides some positive moments or entertainment for kids, but then leaves without leaving a lasting impact. The same would be said for a service project that brings a lot of handouts to the neighborhood, but doesn't actually empower people. So I guess when I think about a service project that would impact the North Side, it would be something that is about empowering those whose voices are not always heard in the public discourse about the shape of the neighborhood or where the neighborhood's going to go, or even our educational needs. And it's so somewhere in my thoughts is a project that engages families that are under-resourced, a project that helps them understand how to access the power structures of our, whether it's educational system or economic system, to get ahead. And it's a little bit different, or maybe it's filling the gap in between the referral system that sort of points people in the right direction, but then those folks who are pointed in the right direction don't always follow all the way through to get to the point of change or get to the person they need to speak to. I would love to see a project that came in and worked with a specific set of families to impact them permanently, to impact them in a long-lasting way.
Good service project. Again, going back to the North Side and the different neighborhoods, in a gentrified neighborhood, the residents there they're Pittsburgh people, they're Allegheny County people, they're regional people, and they've been to Ohio Powell, they've been to McConnell's Mills, they've been to many places, they've been to the symphony, they've been to the opera, they've been to other organizations. My sense is that many residents on the North Side that are of a lower socioeconomic status, there is the convenience of not having to leave the North Side to get most of what you want, but there are some things I think they should be given the opportunity to leave for. I think young students on the North Side should be going to the symphony. They should experience that. That would be a great thing. They should see what the cultural arts are. They should go to some of the parks. They should go to the Laurel Highlands. They should have an opportunity to see what is in Western Pennsylvania as a region, so that they identify themselves with something bigger than the central North Side, and bigger certainly than their own community. It's the good and the bad of Pittsburgh is that we're so self-identified with our neighborhoods. The bad side of that is sometimes we don't see that great thing that's outside. And I just think that it would be great to give younger students the opportunity to see the big bad world out there in Western Pennsylvania, off of Federal Street, just to get them out and about and interact with people.
Service project that would benefit the North Side would be, different ways to make it look pretty. But in a nutshell, we need to get to the core of the North Side, which would be going into the schools and, not necessarily speaking to the kids, but some type of program that would allow the kids and the school and the community to kind of work together on one accord to kind of see what the need is of that area. So that's dealing with the school and possibly the community. Maybe linking up with the community leaders and seeing where their need is. And also, because in the North Side, the parts that I'm familiar with, church religion is a strong, it's kind of like a backbone that a lot of people use. So maybe doing a service project that will help the church. Not really playing on religion or anything like that, but just being able to get in with the churches and see what their need is outside of the whole belief system. Just like, okay, well, where do you see that your members need help? Is it job readiness? Is it a program? Is it a resource? There are so many things out here that we have access to that not everyone knows that we have access to. So just kind of preparing the community preparing them to be a success, whether it's in education, whether it's entrepreneur, whatever the case may be. But just going into the schools, going somehow into the community as far as community leaders, and then in the church, and doing something that actually means something, not just kind of, oh, okay, we're in here for something that actually will have an impact. Not building a tree or not planting a tree, which is nice also, but something that will have a long-lasting impact on that community.
One of the things that the students have mentioned to me, I'm glad that you mentioned that, one of the things the students have mentioned to me is because we're located on the edge of the park, and sometimes we have some homeless people, some other things that kind of drop trash around this area, is to do a beautification project and to clean around the school. And also they told me they would like in the springtime to plant flowers around the building. So those are the two things that students have come to me since school has started to offer. One of the things that sometimes during the, especially during the holiday seasons, children will come to me to ask if they can do food collections, and so that because we also have because we have such rich resources here, we also have families that are in need here, and so we do have homeless shelters that are close to us. And so around Christmas and Thanksgiving time especially, children will come to me to ask if they can do a project and collect cans, so they can canned food so they can take to the shelters that surround our building. So those are things that students have asked me.
I think a great service project for the Central North Side would be that we have a resident who had this vision of taking old doors and painting them really brilliant colors and filling vacant lots with them, just to show a sign that people care about this neighborhood and that we're working on, putting positive things in these lots, and it would just be kind of a temporary beautification strategy. And they actually had a big community day, and they painted all the doors, and we just haven't had the oomph to install them. So we actually have over a dozen doors that are, painted by the community, and we just haven't installed that. We haven't done the final step. So that would be a great project and really finish out, the work that's already been done. And there's also been a few different efforts throughout the city where people use stencils or artists paint boarded up windows. And again, like I mentioned, we have so many vacant lots or vacant buildings, and that is a way to show that yes, this building is vacant, but there is a thriving community here who sees that and is working on making this not a vacant building, and it just brightens up the street and shows that we care about our neighborhood and beautifies it. So I think just even making a list of all the vacant properties that have plywood boarded up windows, and then stenciling those or painting those and really brightening those streets that are kind of derelict would be a great project. And then there's always cleaning up vacant lots. We have a lot of vacant lots, and when they are not filled with trash, it's statistically proven that there's less crime and drug activity that happens in those lots when they're clean and maintained. And then bigger projects, of course, could include putting gardens on those lots, or creating different design ideas of what to do in these vacant spaces. That would be a bigger project, but I think at the minimum, just cleaning them it takes a lot of manpower, and it's something that our community is very active in doing monthly, and we still can't keep up with the litter, so that would be a huge help.
Well, thanks a lot for watching my camera report. I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about my community. Now I'm ready to turn in my interview notes and start working on a service project that will best help the North Side. Well, I hope you enjoyed the music that plays during the credits, and don't forget, who runs the world? KEYS. Woo!
I've seen the stars fall in love with the silver moon. I've heard a maid say I do till it's true. Spent all my days trying to figure what is true. Never considered it all.